likes and a warm welcome to what I hope will become my first ever YouTube video, so stay tuned. So my name is Vita, and I've been a parent for 24 years and a therapist for over 30. And a bunch of you from Instagram and also for my private work asked me to come on here and talk about what it means to be a good parent, in my perception. So here goes. It might sound like a bit of a rant. If you want to be a good parent, you need to have a good relationship with yourself first. And if you don't have one, create one. The other thing you need to do is grow some really, really good boundaries where your child is concerned. Because if you don't have any, you're going to ruin their life and ruin any potential you might have of having a good relationship with them. When they're little, you feed them either from the breast, and after that, you teach them good nutrition habits, I hope, and so on like that. But you also have to see that your job is to cultivate their authenticity and their individuality and to teach them, impart your knowledge, yes, but not to impose it on them, not at any age, just to help to see who they are and what they want to be from a very young age if they're oriented towards art or science or music, to expose them to different things, but not to force them to choose one thing over another, to nourish, to nurture, and so on like that. This is just a general overview for today. As they get older and they have different, situations come up, be it with friends or at school and so on like that, they're only going to come and talk to you if they feel invited and open to do that. If they feel like you're going to judge them, they're not going to turn to you. They'll turn to other friends or the internet or whoever it is that they're not worried will judge them the way they fear that you might if you don't have good boundaries in place. So your job as a parent of a, let's say, adolescent and teenage child is to have really good boundaries yourself so that they feel open to coming to you, to talking to you about whatever it may be that's on their mind and in their heart. And if you don't have that, take a step back and consider looking at yourself. Go for counseling, talk to a friend, but I understand that to really master the art of positive parenting, you need to have a good relationship with yourself. That's easier said than done. I realize that, those relationship with self is wavering. It's not, it ebbs and flows and so on like that. But a good boundary is something that if you understand what it is and you realize you're kind of getting too close to the edge of it, then you back up and you kind of examine yourself. And if you make a mistake with your child and you apologize, that's all cool. So if you want a good relationship with your child of whatever age, I have a 24-year-old, he's my child. I mean, he's a young man, but I call him my child, whatever. But you can't impose your own needs upon them. You can't impose your desires for them to be a certain profession, for them to choose a certain kind of partner, for them to be a certain way. You just can't. You have to love them and cultivate them in a way that will let them be who they want to be, not who you want them to be, because you haven't done the work on yourself to understand that you are who you are and they are who they are. And given that boundary and given that work on yourself, you can grow and it's gut-wrenching work, don't get me wrong, but you can grow a really wonderful, positive relationship with your child. I've done that. For me, it wasn't that hard because I did the work on myself all along and just kind of knew what to do. But I've enjoyed the benefit of not putting my own needs onto my child's life space. I'm back today to offer you some tips on how you can be the best possible parent to your children, or the children that you're contemplating having. The very best tip I can give you is to focus on the relationship you have with yourself in order to be a better parent. That might sound strange to some of you, because they say, what does my relationship with me have to do with how I relate to my child? In order to be a good parent to your growing child, you need to have a positive relationship with yourself. And many people don't, so the question is, how do you go about that? It's different for everybody. But one tip that I can offer you is that you need to take care of yourself first, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to use the relationship with your child in ways that are not positive. You need to learn to see and respect that child as a separate entity, as I mentioned yesterday, and not as an extension of yourself. That child is not a toy that you can use when you feel like it and put on a shelf when you're done. It's a lifelong commitment of care at different stages of their development. So I know that might arouse some controversy for some people, but so be it. I'm here to offer you some pointers of what I've acquired in terms of working with parents and being a parent over the last over 30 years. Here's a couple more tips. Many parents and prospective parents that I've spoken with talk about their need to control their child's behavior, and it boggles their mind when they just can't get them to do what they want them to do. Okay, and it's a trigger for them. And so part of what I try to talk about is ask the parent, as I would encourage you to ask yourself, that what is your need to control another living, breathing human being, even though you think it might be for their own good, but what is your need? What does that have to do with you? Your need to control what they do and what they don't do, and getting so angry and so distraught if they don't do exactly what you say when you tell them to do it. Be they 2, be they 5, be they 15, or be they 18. It's a similar mechanism that's working in there. And you think it's for the need, your need to control them is something to do with you, and it's not something that's helpful to them. So the question is, how do you deal with a child, let's say, who's not doing what you tell them to do? Let's say they need to do their homework or something, you know what I mean? Or they don't want to follow their curfew time or whatever. So depending on their age, you have to think about why they're not wanting to be compliant. And how does that make you feel when they don't do what you say you want them to do? As I just said, does it trigger you in some way? What does it have to do with you? And where's that boundary between what it has to do with you and what it has to do with them? Now, in order to get them to do something, you can't come from a domineering place of do this and do that. Why? Because I said so. It doesn't work. And if it does work, because if they're little and afraid of you, it's going to backfire in another couple of years when they reach pre-adolescence or any stage thereof. The best practice to put into place is to talk to your child. If you're asking them to do something, explain why. Tell them, listen, honey, I need for you to do this. Kind of like a parent friend. I need for you to do this. And you're also teaching them to think because of X, Y, Z, and so on like that. Not, I need you to do this because I said so. That has so little to do with what they need and everything to do with unresolved conflicts within yourself. It's got nothing to do with what they need from you, In future meetings, if you're interested, I'll talk about a big thing that parents ask me about, should I punish my kids, and if yes, how and why. That's another topic that if you're interested, I can get into that. And part of the big thing that I do is I teach parents how to talk to their kids about their relationship. I'll just leave you with this last point. It's kind of like a relationship you'd even have with a girlfriend, or I teach that, that kind of a thing too. Kind of like to meet and to say, hey, how are we doing? Are we meeting each other's needs in this relationship? How are we getting along? Am I giving you what you need? And are you giving me what I need? And just learning how to have that kind of conversation. Now, if you're shocked right now, I'm sorry, but I know that this kind of relationship, or building this kind of relationship, is very, very powerful, meaningful, and builds amazing, amazing relationship between, right now we're talking about parents and kids, through the years and into their parents and kids' later years. And it's just a very wonderful, warm, loving way to be with one another. It's different than things you've heard before, I realize that, but I can talk more about it, and I can teach you some of those skills and see if they fit into your life, see what you think about it. And I might continue this segment on parenting because a lot of people are asking me to do it, and I'm more than happy to if it's interesting to you. So have a good evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.